record performance. I am now recording my cat performance. Hi, my name is Cat. This is Red Means Recording, and Jeremy asked me to do this video because I have big ears and can hear things. We're going to look at the Soundcloud mastering service, which this is not sponsored content. This is just something I'm curious about because I have a morbid curiosity about how bad it might be. So let's go into this and see what up, as they say. Transition. So, in case you don't know, SoundCloud has a mastering service. I'm gonna have to type. Okie dokie, SoundCloud mastering powered by Dolby. I don't know what Dolby has to do with mastering, TBH. The last thing I heard about Dolby and mastering was like back in the day with noise reduction on tape. And we are a very long way from that. I have prepared some tracks for this, a whole bunch of tracks, and we're going to run through them. I have a whole bunch of older tracks that I have specifically picked for this. Obviously, you can master a track that you've already put it on SoundCloud, but you're going to want to make sure that the track is uncompressed. So that means at least 44.116, 44.1 kilohertz, and 16-bit, and higher is better, actually. I do not know what SoundCloud is going to spit out as its final format for this. I don't know if it's going to dither down to 44.116 from what I send it. There's a really big plane going by. It's important to stay hydrated. So when Jeremy masters tracks, which is something he started doing sort of professionally recently, he works with a 48 kilohertz 32-bit master with about 6 dB of headroom on the master channel, meaning that your peaks are going to hit around negative 6 dB. That gives the mastering engineer a lot of leeway to make dynamic changes to your project, which is important. The other thing that's important is to take off any of the master channel effects, so any EQ or compression that you have on the master channel. Now, there are some situations in which this is not the case. For instance, if you sent something to tape or something like that, obviously there's going to be some saturation and color on the 2-track that you're going to send to the mastering engineer. And, you know, that's sort of unavoidable, and it is what it is. But you do not want to send a mastering engineer a track that has a bunch of compression and an EQ on it, because that's their job. Let them do that, okay? Let them do that for you. And that's Cat's mastering tips. Cat. I'm pretty sure that that is a haiku. Keep in mind, though, that mastering style itself is just a set of goals for each track type. Each track is different, and therefore the output of the style will be unique based on how you've mixed the track. Yes. So basically what they're saying is, if you have a shitty mix, we can't help you. And you're going to hear that from mastering engineers in general. Butterfly in the sky, I can fly twice as high. In a book, I see a cat. It's Cat Rainbow. Master track. All right. Let's see. Okie dokie. Look at this. This tells you that something is happening. Do you see that? Do you see that little squiggly line that looks like a worm that's sort of like moving around? That tells you that Dolby is listening to your track. And what it's actually probably doing right now is listening to the whole track to determine what loudness amount it should apply. You have to listen to a very large portion of the track to get an overall LUFS reading, the LUFS, or the loudness units, which is generally how you will sort of want to target your loudness for your track. And Jeremy has a video on that if you want to learn about it. What the fuck is this? Original Thunder adds a lot of bass. Not gonna lie, Sunroof sounds okay. So Clear Sky actually does what it says. It raises up these highs and sort of gives the top shelf a little bit of extra intensity. I think for this, Sunroof is the way to go. Okay, so we're using that one at we're using Sunroof at 47 intensity. So what we're gonna do is, after we've done a couple of these, we're going to compare them to the master that Jeremy made and see which one I guess we like better. I will be completely honest. Once I got the volume thing worked out, that did not sound terrible. It wasn't just like increasing loudness, wasn't as granular as I would have liked to been, but again, it really depends on your mix. Your mix is very important. Okay, so what are the basics of mastering? Well, EQ, compression, stereo imaging, and maximizing. Those are the sort of like four things. Those are the four things that are the basic tools of mastering. You will sometimes use multiple iterations of those things within the context of a mastering chain. So you may use an EQ and then a compressor that focuses on one thing, like the peaks, and then you might use another EQ, and then you might use a compressor that focuses on a longer term thing, like the overall swell dynamics of the track, or a longer attack and release kind of thing. And then your imaging, rate your master. I'm not going to do that. Download file. Okay. Great. You may make small adjustments with a lot of different things in a chain. You should focus on trying small amounts of changes with the same processor or different iterations of the same processor next to each other, because that is how the fun is done. Let's master Azride. So this mix, this unmastered mix, is a little dark. It's not very compressed, which is good. Let's find a thing with vocals. Great. Taking a listen to your track while the cat does a little song. I hope you like the cat because he is hanging out for this video. Yeah. Map. Okay. So we have the same selections down here. Our volume is down, so we're not clipping. Let's check it out. A lot of volume. We will be very curious to see what LUFS level it is mastering these to. At 100%, we're getting too much compression in the low end. So because this has vocals in it, sort of, I should have picked a better section, but because this has vocals in it, we're going to give a listen to Clear Sky because this is sort of a pop focus thing. For this, we're going to go with Clear Sky because I like what it's doing to the vocals a little bit more. What are we going to do next? I want to send it some of the older alternative stuff from Jeremy because he was working on remasters of that, and we have not tried that kind of stuff. This has all been very beat heavy. So let's try another thing coming. This track is very dark, different than what we were doing. This is from Jeremy's album Psychic Realty. Let's pick a good section this time. Yeah, so these mixes are a mess. Very mid-rangey, very muddy. So we're not going to use this. We're not going to use Thunder. We know that. One of the things about making large changes to a sound, a two-track, especially if you are involving volume maximizing, is that it's really hard to hear what processing is happening if you're also bumping up the volume a whole bunch. So unfortunately, and I think this is a suggestion to SoundCloud, if they wanted to improve this service, they should give you the ability to not just toggle between original and master, but also toggle between original master and master with no volume maximizing. So you can actually hear what it's doing to the tone and stereo image of your track without the volume maximizing. So you can make a more informed decision about what it's doing. So we went with Aurora. This is one of those cases where if this was sent to a mastering engineer, they could make two choices. They could decide to not master it. They could decide to ask the person to go back and make mix changes before they mastered it. Mastering engineers can be really particular about the projects that they take on, and that's because they are weird, and also because they understand that garbage in, garbage out, and if you're working with a client who does not understand, their mix will not be 100% saved by the mastering process, and they're expecting you to turn kibble into wet food. Mastering can't necessarily do that. It can help quite a bit, but it can't turn kibble into wet food. That's a cat analogy. It's done. Download the file. Jeremy has been having a lot of fun with his lesson stuff. He's very grateful to everyone that's been doing that. Thank you for making that possible. You can almost pretend nothing's ever changed. It's now through the day, but she still laughs and says that she's okay. So we're going with Clear Sky for this, and we're only using a little bit of the intensity because I heard some distortion in the low end when I turned the intensity up. But I do like what it's doing to the vocal frequencies in the high end. Transition. Let's go ahead and put something on here that will allow us to do a little bit of peeping at some stuff. And we're going to use Insight for this. This is a plugin that will give us some insight into things like our loudness and stereo field. So the way that integrated LUFS work, and there is a video about this, you can go watch it if you want. These are loudness units. These are the perception of loudness to the human ear over time. Services like Spotify and stuff like that have a loudness algorithm to sort of equalize the tracks so that when you're listening to a bunch of tracks that were mastered at different loudness levels, they sort of all fall into line. I guess the target for Spotify is -14. So you can see that this track, My Master, is hitting at -15.8. Not gonna lie, that's actually not bad. Actually not bad. I do like the sparkle that it added. It's hitting a little bit louder. -14.6, so it sounds a bit better than My Master that I did a while ago. All right, Azurite, you can see a pretty big difference in the dynamics based on just the waveform here. My Master is very candy bar. Theirs has a lot of dynamics still left into it. And this is hitting at around -15. So yeah, they're really keeping it down at, down right below that Spotify LUFS level. Good stereo image. I like Jeremy's master better here, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, there's less dynamic range for it, but you'll see that the transient hits, and then we have the music in between. Looking at how other music is mastered from a visual perspective can be really insightful to see how that original transient looks compared to the music that's in between it. What do your transients look like? What do your downbeats look like compared to the rest of it? But it's not just loudness that I'm interested in here. Yeah, it's also the stereo image and the way that despite this being louder and less dynamic, it's more contained and thoughtful in the high end and the mid to high end because Jeremy really spent a lot of time dialing in the high frequency compression and EQ for this track. So while I think it did an admirable job on this Another Thing Coming thing, which was kind of a mess, I like what Jeremy did better in Azurite. So let's check out another vocally based pop one. Very similar waveforms. Let's see where peaks are. So we're at -14 again. They're peaking at -3, which is kind of interesting. Whereas Jeremy's master It's peaking at -4. Okay, interesting. The SoundCloud master in this is fine. It has a little bit more high-end than I would prefer, but overall, it doesn't sound bad. And finally, I Need You. So you can see that Jeremy's mix is extremely more compressed or limited than the SoundCloud one. We're hitting at like -12 LUFS. Stereo image is mostly centered. We're not getting a lot past these things here. Phase correlation is positive. Let's check out the SoundCloud master. Hitting around -16 LUFS. Wider stereo image. To its detriment, I believe. Prefer the Jeremy Master in this. It's more focused. There's more attention to detail in the frequencies and stereo image to help tighten up the track and give it more punch and focus. We had one where the master from SoundCloud was great. This first one right here. This one and this one both are better with some hands-on as opposed to just having an algorithm do it. And then Through the Dark is kind of a toss-up. There is a certain level of like preference when it comes to how the end result of a product sound. There are objective things and there are subjective things. Some albums have very purposeful mastering to make them sound a certain way. For instance, like U2's Europa, they really wanted it to sound like it was coming out of like a broken stereo, and mixing and mastering helped encourage that. It's not just make your track louder and brighter. It's about the feeling and specific energy for each track, which I believe SoundCloud said at the beginning. They're like, you know, every track is unique. Would I recommend this? I think it's worth a shot if you have Pro. Throw some tracks through it and see if you like the way they sound. It will be difficult to tell 100% based on the sheer amount of volume that the mastering process through their automated service adds, what it's actually done. It will sound more exciting to you. It will sound bigger, but will it sound as good as if somebody who actually kind of is really listening and taking time to make your track sound better? Well, in most cases, no. And that's to be expected. It's not a replacement for a mastering engineer. It's a sort of set and forget way to just make your track sound louder and bigger and brighter. So every automated mastering service is going to be similar. They feed it a whole bunch of music. They do a whole bunch of frequency analysis. They have targets for loudness and things like that. And then they sort of apply a bunch of shit to your song and hope that it turns out for the best. And in some cases, for instance, Another Thing Coming, it really works. In other cases, it's not quite so good. So there's my take on SoundCloud's mastering service. I hope this was informative. I'm a cat. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. I love you. Send me fish. Redman's recording. Have a wonderful day.